and I'm putting my history nerd cap on here. You and I are both history nerds. This is an unprecedented act in the 240-year history of the United States of America. Never before has there ever been a president or former president who has faced charges, certainly not being brought by an elected Democrat district attorney in a state that is rife with political opposition. So my biggest takeaway here, regardless of what happens with Trump, is this is a cross the Rubicon moment where it used to be unheard of that a president or a presidential candidate or a former president would ever face charges, particularly those rooted clearly in political animus. Now I'm unfortunately of the opinion that it is going to become standard, and you want to talk about actual threats to democracy. This is what Democrats have been screaming since Trump came down the escalator in the Trump Tower, that he is an unparalleled threat to our democracy. Democrats, with the raid on Mar-a-Lago and now with the charges being brought against Trump, have broken 240 years of political tradition, and they have engaged in behavior that, in my opinion, is a direct attack upon the foundations of our democracy, whatever you might think about Donald Trump himself.
The purpose of this, I think, Clay, is, and, I was trying to just sort of relax yesterday on the couch with the wife. Text message start flooding in. You have that too in our business when it's, after sort of standard working hours and you get 15 text messages in a row from different people. And I remember I was like, oh God, it's a Trump indictment, isn't it?
And you're like me, when you get your phone blows up like that, I think one of two things. Either something crazy has happened in the news, or my wife is mad at me because of something one of the kids have done. For me, that's one of the only two things it could be.
So the precedent is the point here. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand. My first thought with this is we are now all in the Trump bunker because everybody on the right understands. And I know a lot of people were before, but I'm saying now, everybody on the right is in the Trump bunker. Ron DeSantis put out a statement right away, by the way, saying that he would not participate in the extradition of Donald Trump from Florida because of the obvious politicization here. I think that's noteworthy. Ron's a guy who knows the law, obviously, very well, and he recognizes on a legal and also on ethical grounds, on moral grounds, standing with Trump in this moment for our country is the right thing to do. The setting of the precedent here, I would argue, Clay, is likely, and this is Andy McCarthy was the first person that I think said this publicly, so I'll credit him, and I know he's coming on the show later, but it's likely the breaking of the dam moment. It's going to be a lot of metaphors, everybody, a lot of metaphors, maybe cliches even when something like this happens, but it is a breaking of the dam, I think, because there's the Georgia indictment about I forget the specific charge. There could be a bunch of different charges, but it's essentially inducement to commit election fraud, something along those lines, almost like conspiracy to commit election fraud. The specific Georgia statutory language may be a little bit different. There's also the Mar-a-Lago documents thing. By the way, I don't see that because of the Biden issue, right? They're not trying to keep the veneer of legality going for our side. We already know that this is a political attack, but their own side, there are Democrats who want to believe that this is legitimate at some level. So that's the only thing I think that holds them back. They want to be able to tell other Democrats, see, we're upholding the rule of law, and in their simplistic fashion, they'll believe them. So I think this is the beginning of other indictments, and it could even include, and this is the one that I think is the one they really want, is seditious insurrection, effectively, or the conspiracy to commit insurrection or fraud against the United States. That would be the federal charge that Merrick Garland would have to go with eventually. Maybe we don't get there. Maybe we don't go there. This also allows them to see how the escalation plays out, right? This allows them to, with a much more minor charge, let's see how far they get with this. Let's see what the reaction from the right is. I do think, and maybe I'm too much of an optimist, Clay, although I don't think people usually would accuse me of that. I think that they will be surprised by how united around Trump the right has become on this issue. We had a bit of this with the Mar-a-Lago raid, where everybody, I was thinking back to that last night, a very similar feel to what happened yesterday. But I think that they're going to see a unified right. I think it's also very likely push Donald Trump to an unassailable position in the Republican primary. I wouldn't say it's over and done with, but I would say it has certainly been a boost for him in that direction. And this is about a lot more than a frivolous indictment based on a payoff to an individual for a nuisance lawsuit or whatever. This is about the ability of the apparatus of the Democrats, of the left, to target individuals for political purposes brazenly and openly and use the law as a weapon to do it.
Buck, here's another angle, and I think everything you said is right. The Biden DOJ and the Biden White House, I keep waiting for this to happen. I don't believe they've issued any statement yet. They're going to be able to say this isn't us. Remember the Shaggy defense? It wasn't me. Back in the day, the popular song, Gets Caught Cheating, just says it wasn't me. The Department of Justice and the Biden administration can say, it's not us. That's New York City prosecutor Alvin Bragg. He's not a federal agent. If the charges are brought in the state of Georgia, they can say, this is not us. This is an investigation in the state of Georgia. It actually lets Merrick Garland off the hook. And it even allows Biden potentially to play statesman by saying, these are not federal charges that by and large are being brought by my Department of Justice. I don't think it's appropriate that I should be involved in any way in going after a chief political opponent. But I'm not in charge of the decisions that individual prosecutors make in their particular jurisdictions. And that is, to me, as I was sitting back and thinking about this, that is the tiny little thread that allows Biden to get all of the benefits of charges being filed against Trump while being able to hold his hands and, palms to the sky and say, it wasn't me. I didn't do this. This is the United States justice system, individual jurisdictions going after Trump. We're not involved at all. And that's where I think we probably end up. I think charges are going to be brought in Georgia as well. And then you'll have a two-fronted legal war. And I still think because of the Biden classified documents fiasco that Merrick Garland ultimately will come out and say, I'm not going to be able to get involved in bringing charges against Trump. I've decided against it. I'm going to wag my finger
on the docs. You think about January 6th as well, though?
I think even on January 6th, yes, because now they're getting the benefit of Trump being charged. Look, the mugshot, the perp walk, the fingerprinting, all of that is what they really want. And here's my big picture thought, aside from the historical awfulness of this. Buck, they want Trump. They want Trump in the ring against Biden because they believe, and it may be a misguided opinion, that the only person Joe Biden can beat is Donald Trump. So this helps them, I believe, get Trump in that boxing ring with them for the rematch of 2020.
Let's be very honest with each other here, everybody, about, first of all, what the message that has been sent by this is, which is you, meaning everyone listening, better stay in line and obey and shut your mouth and do what the left wants or else. You challenge the system, they'll come after you. That's the message. Now, they're not going to come after everybody, but they don't have to is the point. They have the ability to come after absolutely everyone. And I think it's important to remember that the Russia collusion hoax, which we all sit around now and say, wow, that was crazy. That was it was insane. It was wrong. It's really evil, too, to put the country through that. Democrats view it as success. And you really have to let that sink in for a moment. The Democrats view Russia collusion as at least a partial success. It meant that Trump spent how much of his time, how much of his energy, and his staffers, and his White House, and his press allies, and people in the media who supported him, people like you and me. How much time did we have to spend playing defense against a fantasy?
Yep.
Now we're going to be playing defense against, yes, grotesque abuse of the law, politicized indictments, but for them it's all upside. Just like how our initial assessment of Bragg was there's nothing but upside for him to bring the charges. Apparently they had two grand juries going, by the way, which is what threw us when they said the one was being delayed for a month, right? There were multiple.
That was intentional leak, though, because they're trying to, I think they played the media like a fiddle there because they were able to make people think, like even the Trump people in Mar-a-Lago were like, let's pause a little bit. Like this is not necessarily moving.
It was to make, look, it was tactics. You're 100% right. And we can't, I'm not in that grand jury room. You're not in that grand jury room. So we can only go based off of what the reporting is. But the message is very clear. We all understand. This is a moment where we're calling in the cavalry on the right. Everyone's coming together and saying, hold on a second. There's something deeply, ethically, morally wrong. This is doing violence to the Constitution. I know people say, oh, it's just a state charge. It's not that big a deal. No, it is a huge deal. It's a current
Monster
presidential candidate. It's a huge deal. And we all know that. But we also have to understand, what do they really want? Yes, they want Donald Trump in handcuffs. Yes, they want the perp walk. But also, they want to win.
Yep.
So if we want justice, it's not just Trump beating this, meaning the charge. It's a Republican. It's Donald Trump. It's somebody for our side in the White House in 2024. We have to keep our eye on the prize.